Welcome to Between the Lines, the Five Towns Jewish Times podcast, where newsmakers unpack the stories shaping the Jewish community.
Hi everyone, it's Larry Gordon with Esta Gordon. This is Between the Lines, the electronic version of the Five Towns Jewish Times. Our guest today is live with us here in our makeshift studio is Dr. Alan Mazurek, a semi-retired or a retired neurologist.
Retired neurologist, right.
And we're interested in his life experience because today, amongst other things, he's on the board of the folks that have overseen the establishment and the creation of a safe area for Har HaZeitim. I would say probably one of the most premier holy sites, in a sense, in Jewish life. From what I read over the last couple of days, since I asked you about doing this podcast, was that there's 150,000 people buried in Har HaZeitim, and its history goes back 3,000 years. Is that accurate? Is that what it is?
Absolutely. First of all, Larry and Esta, I want to thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast.
You're welcome, of course.
The fastest growing podcast in Majestic Isles.
Yes.
And,
around the world. Don't.
And the only one. Yeah. Okay.
And yes, I am retired neurologist. I was assistant clinical professor of neurology at Mount Sinai. Retired from that. Was in practice for almost 40 years. Mm-hmm. And but mainly, I'm a Torah observant Jew. I'm a lifelong Zionist. Mm-hmm. I am a husband, a father, a grandfather, Baruch Hashem, like you. And I got involved with Har HaZeitim as a result of a personal experience. I was chairman of the board of the Zionist Organization of America for 5 years, and I was involved with them at the ZOA for about 25 years. Right. But then I got involved with the group known as ICHH, the International Committee for Har HaZeitim, because back in 1993, my family, my wife, and my kids and I, we were in Israel, one of those Pesachs that we were talking about earlier today. Right. And we went to Har HaZeitim to visit and say some Tehillim at the Kvaros, at the graves of our loved ones. My wife has family buried in Har HaZeitim, and I have family buried in Har HaZeitim. It's interesting. We didn't know each other before we got married, obviously. Okay. But it turns out after we got married that both our families are buried not far from each other.
Yeah, that much in common.
Yeah, so it's Bashert, right?
Yes.
And in fact, we ultimately bought our Kvaros in between the two families, all right? So we can visit regularly,
right,
you know?
Right.
So the point is that we went there. I rented a car. We went there. This is 1993. We went there to say some Tehillim. We basically were there for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Parked the car on the side against a wall. After we said Tehillim, we said 5 minutes. We were walking back to the car. I hear a thud, and I see that the car is on fire.
Your car?
Our car, the rent-a-car.
Right.
And that was my exposure to some of the dangers on Har HaZeitim. The car was on fire, completely on fire. The story goes, I had, in those days, remember, there were no cell phones.
Right. And
you had a video camera in a bag that you would keep. So I kept it in the car. Mm-hmm. And foolishly, I had my passports, our tickets, remember tickets?
Wow.
Right.
Cash, everything in that bag because I didn't want to lose it. And I figured that's the best place to keep it in the trunk.
All destroyed.
So here I had the dilemma. The car's on fire. The bag with everything in it is in the trunk of the car. Do I go to the trunk of the car and risk getting blown up? Or do I deal with the Israeli bureaucracy to get replacement documents? What do you think I did, Larry?
I think you
open up the trunk.
Exactly. I went right to the... I'd rather go up in a flaming ball of fire than deal with the Israeli bureaucracy.
Exactly what I would do.
It's absolutely what happened.
We don't want to say Lashon Hara on the Israeli
No.
Chas
v'chalila.
They're doing fine. They're doing fine now.
He would still be sitting there trying to get through it.
It was... I'm not even giving you the details, but it was a terrible experience. But anyway, the next day, it was Friday, and the next day went to Shul on Shabbos, and I told people what happened. Mm-hmm. And this is what bothered me most of all, is that the reaction was, you went to Har HaZeitim. Who goes to Har HaZeitim? It's too dangerous to go to Har HaZeitim. And that's what angered me, because this is a kilometer from Har HaBayis. Right. We're always talking about Har HaBayis, and Har HaZeitim, which is a kilometer away, which has been, as you said, it's been a cemetery for 3,000 years, 150,000 Kedoshim are buried there, and we can't go there because we're afraid to go there. So I wrote an article actually for the Jerusalem Post then, and I had a great deal of interest. I wanted to do some things, but I didn't have the time or the connections. Fast forward to 2010, and that's when Menachem and Abe Lubinsky started this committee, the International Committee for the Preservation of Har HaZeitim. And I have to say they've done some incredible things. I'm sorry, did I say 2010? It would be,
Right.
It was,
Earlier.
it was, no, it was 2000,
15
it
years
was
ago.
2000 and, 2013. I'm sorry, 2013.
Oh, so
2013.
18 years ago.
And
Close
yeah,
enough.
yeah. So anyway, they really started to organize. They got the entire Israeli government together. Michal Lindenstrauss, who was the head, the auditor, the controller in Israel, said that the situation in Har HaZeitim is so awful: the vandalism, the lack of security, all of the graves being destroyed. She said that this is a horrible thing. How can we let this continue? And they, Menachem and Abe, organized a contingent to come from America and Europe and Canada to go to Israel and talk to the government. And what they said was, and Abe Lubinsky talks about this all the time, that here they stood there and they said, we need people to come from Brooklyn to tell us how we should take care of the most important Jewish cemetery in our entire heritage. And that's really what started.
I was wondering about that, about why so many things in Israel, I don't know if it's economics or so many things in Israel don't get done unless
somebody from
Somebody from America, the States, get involved.
Right. I think it's a question of priorities. They're busy fighting wars. They're busy.
Yeah, of course.
But still, and it was a necessary. And I give a real shevach voda and yashakach to Abe and Menachem,
Yes.
who really did this. And the organized community. I got involved about 5 years ago, and really we started building a visitor center because we decided the only way you're going to really improve the security situation is to have a presence there. Everything in Israel, right? If you have a presence of Jews there, you need to have Jews come visit there. Of course, you can't have them live there. Nobody's going to live in Har HaZeitim. By the way, it's not just a cemetery. We talk about it as a cemetery, and that's actually the most important thing in terms of historically speaking, but it's actually a site. It's a geographic site. It's a historical site. It's a religious site, of course, and it's a security site because it's only, as I said, a kilometer from Har HaBayit. And if you talk to the government authorities, they said this is a foundational area for securing Har HaBayit.
Well, this is you're right about the personal experience that you had, obviously, which motivated your interest. And I had a similar type of situation because my father, when he got older and decided him and my mother wanted to be buried in Eretz Yisrael, he was also a Zionist going back to the very, very early years. If he was alive today, he would be like 105 or 106 years old. He died in 1989. But about 10 years before that, he bought in Eretz Chaim, in Beit Shemesh, where a lot of people still buy kfarim today. And at the time, I remember him saying that he doesn't want to go to Har HaZeitim because he wants his children to be able to visit his kever. And at times, especially during rough times, when there's an uptick in the battles between the Arabs and the Jews in Jerusalem, yes, when the tension increases, he's afraid that if his yahrzeit comes around and he wants his children to visit, they won't be able to.
You're right. That was actually one of the motivating factors behind forming this committee. And one of the first things that they did, and I give them a lot of credit. First of all, they did major grave restoration. There were a lot of the damaged and vandalized graves were restored and repaired. And the situation today is completely different in terms of security. We have literally hundreds of cameras. We're talking about state-of-the-art cameras that are being continuously monitored in real time to protect people security-wise. And you can call a phone number that will give you a armed security guard for free that will go with you if you want to visit for 45 minutes. You can go and visit your loved ones, kfaros, there. Even now, before we built the visitor center. So they've done incredible things to improve security. So you're right, that motivation of people not wanting to go there or not wanting to be buried there is now hopefully being reduced because people now can get the security they need. And we're going to even improve it further.
So I have a question, Alan.
Yes.
There are Jews and non-Jews buried on Har HaZeitim. How does that work? I know that Princess Anne, I think, is there. And others, Schindler. How did they
Schindler.
work that out?
Right. So there are different, as you know, Har HaZeitim is a structure that is very, very demarcated by chelkos that are different sections that
Right.
are different groups of Jews. You have Jews that are Litvish Jews, you have Hasidic Jews, you have Chabad one place, you have the Gera another place. So that's just
Well,
amongst
they
the Jews.
do that everywhere, right?
Right. And you have different Hevrei Kadisha that handle that. Of course, there's a completely different section for non-Jews. That's in a completely different area. And that's where, as you mentioned, Schindler and the Queen Mother are buried there from England. So that's completely different. We're talking mostly, although it's certainly we're going to work with some partners in the non-Jewish community as well. But first we have to get our house in order. And that's why we're focusing primarily on security, but also having a presence. And that's where the idea of building this international visitor center, a state-of-the-art, a $30 million international visitor center.
So what does that consist of? What does it mean?
Great question. So it's a multi-level structure. It's literally across the way from Har HaBayit. You can see Har HaBayit.
It's already built?
It's in the process of being built. We've had major construction. We just had a major event last week that was attended by about 80 individuals from around the world. Almost all of the major Chavrei Knesset. The president had a meeting with the President Herzog. Unfortunately, the prime minister was supposed to meet, but he was busy. I don't know what he was doing. He was busy.
He's trying to save the country, right?
He had things to take care of. But the point being is that we had some major meetings. We had a major dinner. There was an incredible event. I sent you a video of it.
You help a lot to Israel and to Har HaZeitim. Why you do it? Why you did it?
Because we care about the past, because we care about the future. If we lose our history, if we lose our past connections, then what right do we have to be here now? And what right do our grandchildren and their grandchildren to be here?
Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency, the President of the State of Israel, Yitzhak Herzog.
המקום שמלווה את העם היהודי מימי בית ראשון וילווה אותנו עד לתחיית המתים ולאחריו בבית המקדש השלישי.
Okay, we know you have a passion. Thank you.
It's wonderful. And I think people have to realize, again, that there's such an importance here historically and religiously. The people who are buried there, it's a panoply from the beginning of our Nevi'im. You have Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi who are buried there.
Okay,
Remember, David HaMelech is not buried there, but David HaMelech is buried near there. And David HaMelech, remember, he went there. It was called Ma'aleh Zeitim. If you look in Shmuel Bet, when Avshalom tried to rebel against his father, David HaMelech, where did he escape to? He escaped to Ma'aleh Zeitim. And it meant, if you look at the Mefarshim there, it says, why did he go to Ma'aleh Zeitim? Because he wanted to be able to daven there to get Hatzalah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because there was remember, Har HaBayit wasn't Har HaBayit. There was no Beis HaMikdash then, because, so he went to Har HaZeitim. And the Rambam and other Mefarshim say that means that Har HaZeitim has Kedusha Kimat like that of Har HaBayit. It says Beferish that the Kedusha on Har HaZeitim is Kimat like that of Har HaBayit. And historically, when the Para Aduma, when we had the Para Aduma, was shechted, he was shechted on Har HaZeitim. And the Kohen had to be looking directly through to the Heichal, directly through a door. They would open the door of the Heichal of the Beit HaMikdash, and he would look directly through when he was doing the Shechita. It's a Mishnah.
Well, another very fascinating
they're
thing.
Connected. They're connected.
A fascinating thing about that subject is that David HaMelech or Shmuel Navi, they were never told where the Har HaBayit is.
Right, correct.
They had to figure it out.
Correct.
The Harim Savivot. They had to find a place.
So why don't you tell us about the location?
So the point being, as I was saying, absolutely, the location is key. It's a large expanse, but the point is the Paradume. You can actually go visit the spot. We know exactly where the Paradume was shechted and where he has to look directly into the Heichal. And the Meheri Amenu, the Beis HaMikdash is going to be built, and we'll be able to do it again. By the way, Jeff Dalby, who used to be, when I was at the ZOA, he used to be the director of the Israel branch, the Israel office of the ZOA. He now is at Har HaZeitim, the International Committee for Har HaZeitim. He does regular tours gratis, free, does tours on a regular basis. He is brilliant. He is eloquent. He is able to give you must go, whoever visits Israel must go on a tour of Har HaZeitim. It is fascinating. He will show you, for example, I mentioned the Nevi'im. The Or HaChaim is buried there. The Bar Tanura is buried there.
The Rashash.
The Rashash is buried there, exactly.
I only know that because I was once there on the Rashash's yard site, and there was a
big crowd comes. Exactly.
What's going on? What's going on
exactly.
here?
Exactly. Then you have
and Robert Maxwell.
Okay, we'll get to Rabbi Maxwell. Yeah, more modern Rabbanim are buried. You have Rabbi Goren is buried there. You have Rav Hutner is buried there.
Okay.
It's incredible.
Well, Google didn't have Rob Hutner. They had Robert Maxwell.
No, now Robert Maxwell is there. He and most people who know who Robert Maxwell is,
yes,
his father. Don't talk about it. He did some great things for Israel, but let's not talk about it. But he's very,
let's not. Right.
But I have to tell you, so you raise a good point because that shows how interesting somebody who has interest in any aspect of Jewish history, any aspect of Israeli history, will find something that interests them. Menachem Begin. If you're not interested in the Rabbanim, if you're not interested in the Levim, Menachem Begin is buried there. And do you know why he's buried there? Because why did he want to be buried in Har HaZeitim? His wife is buried, Elisa is buried, she was buried, unfortunately she died before him. Because two freedom fighters in 1948,
Weinstein and
Feinstein and Barazani.
Barazani.
Right, exactly. Moshe Barazani and Meir Feinstein, an Ashkenazi and a Sephardi, which I think is incredibly important because you show the unity. They were both imprisoned
by the British,
and they were going to be hung the next day. Rather than be hung, they hugged each other and had a grenade between them and committed suicide, and they were buried on Har HaZeitim.
Har HaZeitim.
And Menachem Begin, who was, of course, the head of the Irgun, he said, when I die, I want to be buried next to these two heroes. Who
we went to his caver. Right.
And he's not buried on Har Herzl, like some of the other prime ministers. He's buried on Har HaZeitim. Hey, amazing stuff. This is all history. It's history. It's living history. It's not just dead people. It's living history. And has such implications for what the future will be. And if we want to keep Har HaBayit safe, want to keep Yerushalayim safe, we need it.
Listen, also, it borders what's known as the Shar HaMashiach.
That is correct.
Which is right there.
That's why I bought my cross.
I don't know how that is going to unfold, but there is a section of the wall around the Har
HaZeitim.
Supposed to open up.
That's right. Shar Rachamim. Okay, it's all sealed off. The Arabs sealed it off because they don't want us to have Mashiach come. Okay,
right.
But I remember, of course, we all learned that, and the time of Tchias HaMesim is going to start at Har HaZeitim. So, and everyone else is going to roll. And I don't know about you, but I'm very concerned about getting my hair all dirty, and I don't want to roll.
You're not a rock and roll guy.
One second.
So I don't want to roll too far. My back hurts a little bit.
How far is Eretz HaChaim?
I want to be very close, so that's why I don't want to roll.
You're a rock type.
Alan, how far is Eretz HaChaim there?
Oh, how far is it?
Eretz HaChaim is in Beit Shemesh.
Yes,
right. It's a lot of rolling.
It's a bit of a roll.
20 minutes away when there's no traffic.
Exactly. You're going to be on Kvish 1. It's true. If you get into a traffic jam, it's going to be a while. Listen, I'll hold a spot for you while I'm there on Har HaZeitim.
Let's talk about some practical things in reference to Har HaZeitim. The cost of a caver.
Okay. All right.
So I know it fluctuates.
It does fluctuate.
I know what it depends on, but maybe you know what it depends on.
It's like everything in real estate. What's the most important thing in real estate?
Location.
Location. That's really what it is. If you want to buy one of the, there are places where Henrietta Zold is buried, very expensive. Sheldon Adelson. I don't know about you, but I can't afford Sheldon Adelson real estate.
Yeah.
He's buried. But there are places that are close to the Arab side. I mean, I'm going to tell you my kever faces a gas station. Okay? It's a nice looking gas station, but it's Har HaZeitim,
You have to you visit? You have to make sure that you're on the administrative map.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I don't want to get off too much of a tangent, but
it's definitely.
It turns out that not in reference to Har HaZeitim, but it turns out that the concept of I don't want anyone to make a mistake that this sort of reminds me of, but grave fraud in Israel and diaspora is one of the biggest scams that exist today.
You're right. You're right. And one of the good things about these Chevre Kadisha, though, in Har HaZeitim, because they're all so makpid, they all care so much about their real estate that they believe me. Once I bought, I can't sell it to anyone else. I cannot. If I wanted to do some kind of chicanery, you can't do it.
You can't flip it.
You can't flip it. Once you have it, it's yours.
It's yours, or it
and
stays
that's
empty.
it. If you don't
Is that how
use
it
it,
works?
they'll take it back from you,
Interesting.
and they'll give you 12 cents for it. But now
Right.
so you can pay $75,000 for prime real estate, and you get something for $20,000. When I bought it, it was about $10,000. So I bought it about 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago. So prices go up. Now that doesn't mean you go ahead and use it. Believe me, you can buy it, but don't use it.
It's like life insurance.
You don't have to use it.
That's exactly. We figured it out from personal experience from parents. That's exactly why there's so much fraud, because here you give a guy comes to your house in New York or wherever you live in California, and you want to buy a choice spot, not necessarily in Har HaZeitim, any place in Eretz Yisrael. Let's say you want to buy in Haifa or in Tzfas, for example, and you tell the guy, I'm giving you $20,000 in cash.
Don't call me.
And I don't want to hear from you.
Right.
Don't call me.
Right.
And I don't want to hear from you again.
Right.
You'll hear from my family.
That's what
The guy just gave me $20,000 cash. He doesn't want to hear from me ever again.
And he has no idea
what am I supposed to do?
it is.
What am I supposed to do with all that money?
Yeah.
So until you need it, it's not an issue until you need it.
Right. So that's a smart thing to do. You have to buy from a reputable person. You have to buy from. That's why you only go to people who are reputable, and you buy from people who bought. Let's say, family. I mean, I bought. I knew my family was very nearby. As I said, my wife's family was very nearby, so we knew exactly where.
But you have to be on. It's a practical thing. You have to be on the map. And you have to, like you said, the most important thing is the connection to the Chevra Kadisha. That's very important, and of course, the security and the safety is is
Although I don't want to focus so much on the burial. That's an important part of it, but that's only. By the way, people always have difficulty finding the kvaros when they go to looking for the kever, because everything looks the same. So we are going to also have a computer. There is already a computerized registry, and we're going to have in the visitor center. You asked me what the visitor center is going to be multi-level. We're going to have a level where you're going to have all sorts of historical presentations. You're going to have holographic. For example, imagine a hologram of Menachem Begin coming out to greet you and telling a story. Do that.
That's cool.
A hologram of the three Nevi'im that I mentioned, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachim, coming out. It's going to be, again, state of the art. You're going to have a shul.
Shiloh, it's something like that.
Right, exactly. And you're going to have a shul. You're going to have also a big auditorium where we can have concerts, if you want to have concerts, because we do. Certainly on Yom HaZikaron, it would be very important to have all sorts of ceremonies. And you're going to have a research center, which will be able to, you can go and log onto the computer and look for whatever kever you're looking for.
So this is going to take $30 million, your budget, to build
so
this?
we've raised a significant amount, but we still need another significant portion.
Another $30 million.
No. On this one, that's the way it goes, right. The price starts off at $20 million, then becomes $30 million before you turn around. But the fact is, we've raised a significant amount, but we still need a significant amount more. And that's why I would like to, if I can, to mention that if you just put in Har HaZeitim.org, or you put in Har HaZeitim.com, then you will get, it will come up. It'll come up. It's the International Committee of Har HaZeitim.
We'll get that on the bottom of the screen.
Don't put in ICHH, because then you'll get some health organization.
Right.
But put in Har HaZeitim or Har HaZeitim, and you'll get, both of those are ours. One is .com, one is .org. They're both our sites, and you can make donations there. And it's so important because, again, it's not about the people who, the Kedoshim were buried there. It's about the future generations. The history is important for us to know where we're going.
So who owns the cemetery right now? Or
Nobody owns it.
Nobody owns it. The state of Israel owns it?
It's the state of Israel land, but each Chevra Kadisha owns, quote unquote, their chelka. So, but it's like all these benevolent societies.
You're talking about 150,000 kvarim.
Right.
I mean, what's the max?
Right.
How much room do they have for the future?
Well, they have a lot. They still have a lot of empty graves, depending on the chelka that's involved. Some places are full, but there's still plenty of place to buy. But the key is, once you have that, once you have a presence there, there's nothing from stopping us, hopefully, from developing other areas that are near. Because remember, there are Arab families living in houses on Har HaZeitim. They should not be living there. They've come, they've come for centuries, have been living there, and they've taken over part. This was Jewish land. This was the Jewish cemetery.
Unbelievable.
It's a very sensitive subject. I do remember when we went with Aryeh King, we went to visit the Kvarim of Menachem and Eliezer Begin. Right near there was a mosque.
Exactly.
How did that come about?
They did it illegally. We protested illegally, but again, the government has
Can't play around.
has other priorities.
Once the mosque gets established,
and now it's a done deal, and it's horrible. but they're even smaller. They have kids who are constantly causing trouble, and we've obviously been very successful in stopping that, but there still needs work to be done. And the fact is, if once you can remove that population that doesn't belong there, people should not be living in a cemetery. Jews don't want to live in a cemetery. Arabs should not be living in a cemetery. People talk about, in America, the stolen land, right? Can you imagine if we decide we're going to build a house on an Indian tribal cemetery? That'd be the worst thing we could do. It would be.
Yeah, that'd go over big.
We'd all be accused of being racist and bigots, and rightfully so. So how can Arabs be living on how can Arabs be living on our Jewish land? These are our Jewish Kedoshim that are buried there. Matzevos were destroyed. Remember, we all heard the stories about in '67 when they liberated Har HaZeitim. They found all the matzevos had been used as latrines, used as paving stones during the '48 war. So clearly, we have a lot to do, but this is the first step in the process.
Oh, so interesting. Prior to '67, Har HaZeitim was Jordan.
It was under Jordanian control. You could still, by law, you were allowed to bury, but it wasn't easy to do. That's why Har Menuchot and Esta became established, because people could not safely bury their loved ones.
So if you had a loved one that passed away between 1948 and '67, and they wanted to be buried in Har HaZeitim, so
between 48 and '67, you couldn't do it.
You had to get a visa you couldn't do it. You had to bury elsewhere. You had to bury
elsewhere. For example, Rav Goren tells a wonderful story. Told in a Sefer, he told a wonderful story how his mother was buried before '48 in Har HaZeitim, and then after '48 they could not visit her. They could never visit her. Mm-hmm. And after '67, he was the chief rabbi of the IDF in '67, and one of the first things he did was he went to visit his mother's kever, and he found that there were pieces of the matzeh were broken. But then he started looking around, and this is what there are many nisim that occur in Israel, of course, and nisim occur in Har HaZeitim. He was able to find pieces of the matzeva, and he rebuilt the matzeva for her. But that means that nobody could visit his mother. He could not visit. His family could not visit for 19 years, from '48 to '67. They could never visit her. And that's why now we have this opportunity, and we have to maintain it, but we have to also expand it. There's no reason why people, I don't care who they are, what nationality, nobody should be living in Har HaZeitim. It's a cemetery. All of these homes should be removed. And there are dogs there. People keep dogs there. They should not be having dogs there. They have animals there. They should not be there. And that's one of the things that we're doing. We're cleaning it up. We're fixing it up. We're making it so people can visit it safely, and also teaching them all about the history and about the background.
Listen, we know about the contentiousness between the Jewish population and the Arabs, especially in Jerusalem, and in the aftermath of October 7th, of course. We've seen, living history of that. It's very fascinating information. You're a great spokesperson for the.
Thank you. But I give all the credit, as I said, the Lubinsky brothers, and we have an incredible committee of volunteers. Everyone's a volunteer who've done incredible stuff. I'm not going to mention all the names because I don't leave anyone out. I mentioned Jeff Dow because he does incredible things with tours, but there's so many wonderful people who are doing this, and I'm telling you, it's really a chesed shel emet, because we talk about when you bury someone, when you do something for a mace. This is really a chesed shel emet, and it's not only going to benefit the mace; it's also going to benefit us and our children and our grandchildren, and our great grandchildren.
It's a great.
Alan, have they ever discussed buying back the homes from these squatters to get them out?
Yes, they do discuss that, and that certainly, if they're willing to sell, it's willing to do it. But you know something? Why should we buy it? They're living there illegally.
You're absolutely right, but they shouldn't have been there to begin with, right? So they get them out, but the military, nobody's getting them out. The government doesn't care.
They settle these things if they could settle them. If they're settlable, if that's not a word. If they can be settled, the only way it can be settled is with big money.
Right.
With money.
That's the only thing that's going to think about moving,
And also, but once we have a presence there, it's going to be very uncomfortable for them to be there, because once they're Jews, that when this is something interesting. I don't know if you saw that Rav Eliyahu from Tveria said this about Har HaBayit. When Jews were not allowed to go up Har HaBayit, the Arabs were all emboldened. This was their land. This was their. Now that Ben Gvir said people can actually go up to Har HaBayit and daven on Har HaBayit and even be mishtachaver. You saw mishtachaver, they can bow down on Har HaBayit. And they're all halachic questions, of course, and you have to do in the proper areas. The Arabs have said, Rabbi Aleinu said this publicly, he said, they've told him that we're not going up to Har HaBayit anymore because you Jews came back, so you acted like the Balabayit, therefore it must belong to you. They respect us grudgingly when we act the way we should, that this is ours. If we act like Har HaZeitim is ours, which it is, it was Ma'ale Zeitim in the Tanakh, it's Har HaZeitim, then if we act like it, they will have to respect it. Because they respect power, and they also respect the fact that when we believe, they know we're stronger than ever. That's the thing.
Well, listen, Alan, you're just
peace through strength.
Right.
Just like MAGA said.
It's just evidence of the fact that there are such a multitude of issues and levels of issues that need to be dealt with when it involves Israel and the Jewish people. And this is just one of them. This is one of the more obscure ones, I think, because that's something that is in the news every single day. Right. But it means a lot to a lot of people.
It's fundamental.
And I thank Abe and Menachem Lubezki for being creative and innovative to get this going, and the rest of the board and the work you guys do, and they should really get the help they need to make it happen.
Thanks so much. Thank you for the opportunity to come on and to share this with you.
This will be posted shortly, and we thank you very much for coming by
and
filling us in and updating us. That's this episode of Between the Lines. I'm Larry Gordon with Esta Gordon here on the electronic version of the Five Towns Jewish Times. Speak to you again soon.